Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Another Seattle Surge match day, another massive piece of potential cheating drama going down over the last few weeks. There's been many gentlemen's agreements broken by the Seattle Surge back in December with a booster on the single tap sprint. Huke then and Arcetes last time out with the smokes literally last weekend, and now they went for the completing the trifecta with Huke now snaking in a rather controversial circumstance up against the Minnesota Rocker. Loads of drama here to dive into today. What will the repercussions be for this one, if any? Will the GA commissioning the pros really clamped on this one hard after the second events in just a matter of weeks? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all though, we've got to dive into all the stuff that's been going on in challenges. I got to say, the challenges tournaments this weekend have been a bit of a nightmare. I've seen so many screenshots flying around from, well, face it admins basically, maybe not making optimal decisions here. There was even some evidence, I believe, of, well, firstly, like players that aren't even 18 playing in these cups. There were also people talking about PC checks being done, literal, like, cheat code devices found on their PCs, but yet they were still, like, allowed to play anyway. So, seems like an absolute mess, to be honest, today. And there was even this where if you like emailed them, they were telling you to talk to the Discord people, and if you went to the Discord, they would say, no, go speak to the admins. So it was a bit of a mess, really, and we saw many such examples of this. Even we saw this from an admin who said, look, you guys just figure it out yourself. Just decide what you want to do, and we'll accept the final result. So I don't really know what that's all about, and, well, here we are with the situation, mainly because the cups have started so late. But, I mean, this is kind of remarkable, right? Compared to last year, there were 978 teams that played last year's first cup across the 4 regions. This year it's basically half of that. So, you know, starting the challenger scene late, the lack of supporters, effectively half the player base for challengers this year. There's many other reasons that contribute to that, but, you know, I don't think this is a massive surprise based on what we have recently seen. There was also some drama when the 7th NA seed, which is Mohawk's team, they got forfeited because one of them didn't turn up, and it turned out Mohawk had overslept. And it's like, this is what I don't get. The Challengers players are frustrated with the state of things in Challengers, and for very good reason. But you gotta turn up on time, you know what I mean? Like, sleeping in, costing your teammates the chance, Gravity says I've been forfeited, somebody help me. Frosty then says, oh, go Frosty, Mohawk's like, sleep in. He eventually wakes up, and it's an absolute disaster. Online invested with hackers, only a couple of lands. Complete shambles in the Challenger side, no doubt about it. But we've got plenty to talk about today on the pro side as well, and this was the standings sheet going into the day. FaZe at 5-0, of course, going in. But some really crucial matches today in terms of seeding, but also just qualification for the winners bracket in general. Certain teams had a good chance to do that, and Minnesota Rocker, after a slow start to the season, 0-4, let's not forget, they looked pretty shambolic, to be honest. They had made a big turnaround over the last few days. They could try and cement that today, as they eventually did. We will see here in a second. Now, just to note here for you guys, the way that these round 1 matches work is that the number 1 seed plays 8, 7 plays 2, etc, in the winners bracket. So 4 plays 5, and right now it's looking very likely that 4 and 5 will be OpTic and Miami. So, you know, we've seen so many times Florida and OpTic go to battle at LAN over the last couple of years. Now it's Miami, but they smoked them 3 yesterday. So that is a very likely winners round 1 game of Boston, and that is going to be fascinating to see how that transpires after what we've seen over the last couple of days. But let's get into the matches. Vegas, honestly, aren't completely terrible. They're just not good enough when it matters. They actually have no ice either, I think, is the real issue here with this team, because they had a reasonable chance to win this game 1. Like, Vegas were competitive in this sub-base hardpoint, but when push came to shove at the end of the map, it wasn't enough, right? And Stanley was doing very well map 1. Like, we know that Stanley is a very capable player, especially online. He's been good over the last couple of years. But Toronto are just a well-oiled machine, and I've said it before, and I'll definitely be saying it again, how every player on their team now, this was the benefit of bringing in Envoy when he plays like we expect Envoy to play, that every one of the team can go off at any particular moment. And even Insight, I know I gassed him up big time the other day, and Insight was having a slow map 4 in the series, and then he just pops like a 6 or 7 spree and ends up like with a 1.5 KD and wins the map. So, yeah, and Scrappy went massive in the search and destroy as well. It was interesting because Scrappy's start of the season in search was highly underwhelming, but he knows that that was the game mode he had to improve on, and guess what he comes into? I think he went 12-4 maybe on this map, something like that anyway. Scrappy even managed to drop this new phase, so, you know, we got this one saved as and when this might be usable after they won the search and destroy. But to be fair to Vegas, they did actually make something happen in this control. I will also mention, right, because there was lots of talk about OpTic OpTic versus Ultra for the last couple of days, and the fact that OpTic were getting clowned on hard after losing to Miami and getting criticized very heavily, and I think for understandable reasons. Now, Toronto also were getting criticized heavily when they lost to Boston, and sure, both OpTic and Boston, or both OpTic and Toronto, got 3-0'd in surprising fashions by those two respective teams. But I think the thing that's making, you know, people concerned more about OpTic is the fact that they also were in a spot like that against Vegas, whereas against, like, in Ultra's case, they have smoked everyone apart from that Boston series pretty much. So, like, that does seem like very much an outlier. Whereas for OpTic, because of what happened against Vegas, people are considering it to be, you know, it looks a little bit more concerning. Because Ultra had won going into this control 7 maps in a row, 11 in one map count since losing to Boston, right? So they've been smoking everyone since losing to Boston. They did, however, lose this control. They went up 2-0, and it looked like it was going to be over. And of course, they thought it was over, Toronto. But actually, fair play to Attacher especially. He goes massive towards the end of this map. And look, who knows if this would have been important for Vegas. To be honest, their chances of qualification were basically like non-existent anyway. But, you know, I guess every little helps. Every map win, every series win, you know, try and get 10 points on the board. But Toronto were too good to be fooled twice in a row. Yes, they got reverse swept in the control, but when it went to a map 4 and Ultra actually focused up, they clearly have a sizable advantage over that Vegas team right now. And even though, as I say, I don't think Vegas are completely atrocious, they're just nowhere near good enough to compete with what might be the best team in the game, was very close to it in Ultra right now. Even as Scrappy says, got bored up 2-0 on the high race, so that's why, you know, that's his explanation for why they lost that map and then went forward. So these are the numbers on the series. Again, it wasn't completely emphatic, especially the game 1, but that skid row, like Toronto's search is really impressive right now, especially now Scrappy's starting to turn up, and this is one of those performances here from CleanX where he has a 0.99, but that's like a 1.3 in terms of impact, right? Like, he's got a 1 flat with so many kills, so many engagements. This is like the ideal CleanX series to go 83 and 84 with, you know, loads of damage on the team. It's just perfect. And Toronto 6-1, Vegas 1-6. That's a very high seeded winners bracket start for Toronto, and of course a losers bracket start for the Vegas Legion. This though was a very interesting series. Miami versus the Los Angeles Guerrillas. LAG, after getting bodied by Rocker just yesterday, we thought, okay, can Miami also go to show that they're the real deal after beating OpTic, right? Miami started the season so well against worse teams, no doubt. Then they started to play better teams. They started losing, but the series against OpTic made people think, all right, maybe Miami are, you know, a real force. And it does feel like they have lots of positives about this team. They've got the teamwork, and they've got more talent, I think, that people gave them credit for. So they won the game 1. Game 2, they should not have won. I mean, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I don't know how LAG choked this one. Here we are, a 3v3. The bomb is down. They've got to try and defuse it. Vikul as well. You've got to give credit to this guy because he's icy, right? He really is. And he's definitely one of the reasons why this team is so effective in these type of moments. Like, Vikul makes so many important plays, like ratty plays that you just got to respect it. So MettalZ goes on the flank, only gets 1 here. And Vikul finds himself in a 1 versus 2. 20 seconds on the clock. He knows his only chance is to defuse. Crazy play, really, because he just shot at this guy middle alley. And number 2 in Fame decided to run away, thinking, okay, for sure, this is perfect. I can call in the Cruise and get the kill. But the Cruise came down, I would say, half a second too late, and Estriel was not there for the kill in time. It was Estriel, wasn't it? Like, no, Assaultso was not there for the kill in time, which was just so poorly done from, honestly, like, Fame's face. Unbelievable seeds. The fact that they managed to throw that away, balls of steel for Vikul to hop it. He knew it was his only play at the time, but the fact that no one was closer there to get the kill in time was really bad. But fair play. I don't know if there's many players in the league that actually would have done what Vikul did there. Like, it was his only chance to win the round. It was still a pretty low chance, but he went for it and he actually pulled it off. So this was certainly a COD moment that preceded an unfortunate event. But yeah, Fame on a 6 spree, calls in the Cruise. Assault was out of position. Obviously, I guess Fame gave the call that I got this covered. But Vikul was so quick on the defuse that it didn't matter. And then, of course, they went on to win the control as well. So maybe it's down to Bucky B to sub in and save this team somehow. But another quick 3-0. I mean, look, we expected some 3-0 today. This was an example here. And I said this morning, didn't I, yesterday or something, that Fame is literally a 0.7 or a 1.3. Like, I said it yesterday, when sometimes he has a godlike series, sometimes he gets smoked. And today, he had a godlike series. He went, 1.34 KD. But the rest of his team kind of got smoked. Assault wasn't really, Assault and Diamond Con weren't doing much on the map, really. 3. Estriel was a 0.82. He didn't do much either. So it's kind of funny, right? Like, it's difficult for Gorillas because if you want to try and improve your roster or upgrade or something, because they're now 2 in 5, which is not pretty, really. And they have another big game tomorrow. We'll see, obviously, when we discuss it tomorrow. But, you know, what do you change? Because it's not like one player is underperforming like Ravens with GodRx. They kind of all take turns having a hard time. But yeah, I mean, Vikul, what a great series from him. And after that series, it put things in this position, the updated winners bracket possibilities, as Doug Levy puts together here. So you guys can see just about on screen here. Let me just go full screen so you guys can see the picture. This is the percentage chances based on many simulations of where these teams will place. This is after those 3 series we just mentioned. So Boston and LAG, the only teams that can potentially swap places. Ravens, Thieves, Vegas, even Thieves, you gotta say, they're guaranteed losers bracket starts. Everybody else guaranteed winners bracket starts. And, well, even going into this series, I believe, in Minnesota certainly doubled down on that. We'll see in a second. So these are the appropriate situations. But as you guys can see, more than likely OpTic number 5 and more than likely Miami number 4. So they could be number 3. OpTic could also be number 4, depending on what happens against FaZe. But overwhelmingly likely, FaZe are number 1 seed. And, well, you guys can see the rest from there. So, of course, at the end of the weekend, we'll discuss how things might go in the future and exactly what we could potentially expect come the major and what the bracket is going to look like. But again, Surge played another series, and every time Surge play a series, there is some degree of drama. They were, I've got to say, at the start of the season, they were a pretty likeable team. I think the fans generally felt that way. Players with some nice revenge stories here, right? Illy coming into the season, back in business. Arcetes, of course, coming back in, looking for some redemption in his career to try and, you know, revitalize his career to some degree. aBeZy, a hot potential prospect rookie player, comes through. And then Huke as well, of course, like the OpTic stuff last year. So I think generally people liked this Surge team, wanted to see them do well. But I think the perception there has changed on its head rather dramatically very recently, basically because of moments like this. So back in December, I think it was leaked in early January or late December by Scrappy, that people had found out that, well, aBeZy was using single tap to sprint, single tap to run, whatever the setting is technically called. You guys know what I mean. You press the button once to sprint rather than press it twice as you normally have to. So that was exposed. Scrappy then said, well, he's doing this, so what are we going to do about it? They lost their warm-ups. They got punished for it as a result. And aBeZy never really apologized, but just kind of said, well, he didn't really say anything. I guess they just admitted that he was doing it. Last week, though, there was a lot of drama. On this very map, let's not forget, on this Skid Row, it was Search and Destroy, Arcetes threw a smoke, and then Huke threw a smoke as well. That was a very marginal GA break, and it didn't give them any advantage in the round itself because they went on to lose the round anyway. And sure, it was a mistake from Huke at the time, or Arcetes, to throw the smoke. They didn't realize they had 2 on, and Scrappy and seems like the pros decided to let that one go because they felt like it was a bit harsh to, well, put on them a week or a month no practice, as was meant to be the potential blacklist, that if you break GAs multiple times, you'll be blacklisted for a matter of weeks, if not months, as a result of the pros trying to keep a commission together. However, after doing all this stuff, Surge then have done it again, because here's Huke here on this dumpster, and again, it's a marginal case in the sense that he didn't get a kill, he died, they lost the map anyway. But here we are with a couple of times in a row, and the outcome shouldn't matter. You know, I don't think we should be forgiving it, in a sense, because they lost the map anyway. It shouldn't matter, because if you forgive it then are you not kind of implying that you should forgive it if he does get this kill? Now, I will also mention, does Awakening snake up here in top P2 as well? You know, here he goes with 1 pump, here he goes maybe with a 2nd pump, and then he's up again with potentially a bit of a 3rd pump going on as well. So, did Awakening snake? Quite possibly, yes. The rule is 2 pumps is all that's allowed. But in the foreground, we can see Huke is up here, and, you know, he's hitting 1 pump, he's hitting definitely a 2nd pump after he gets this kill, and, you know, Huke's going up and down. Maybe he didn't think he was doing it too much, but like, this is the whole point, that the snaking GA is meant to come into place. Here he goes for the 2nd one, here he goes for the 3rd one, and then he lays down, and okay, that was the 3rd one, and then he lays down realizing that, oh, maybe I've done too much here, and sure, he's kind of snaking thin air, and they do kill him anyway. So it seems like the general feeling was, I think Zuma gave him like a yellow card for this or whatever, so maybe it was a bit marginal, but it just leaves a sour taste in people's mouth, and people are really praying for the downfall, I've got to say, of Surge right now, because these things just keep on happening again and again and again. So aBeZy clutched a big 1v3 in this Search and Destroy, took them all the way to a control, which they eventually lost in crazy fashion, actually. I think they're up 2-0 in this one. Rocket brought a comeback, and, you know, got to give credit to Minnesota. I said it earlier today, I do think they've made strides. I didn't think they'd made enough strides in Search to win this series, because I said earlier today, I thought it was was going to be a Surge 3-2. And it went game 5. Like, we finally had a game 5 again, which was rare. And Rocker's record is kind of funny here, right? I don't know why Rocker always have these things. Rocker, like, every year they have some weird records where they either get smoked in game 1s and win, like, every game 2, or they get smoked in game 2s and win every game 1. This time, they're getting smoked in game 4s, but winning every game 1, which is so weird because they're both hardpoints, right? So, like, you're not good or bad at, you know what I mean? You're still good and bad at hardpoint, but for whatever reason, they get smoked in game 4s, they win the game 1s, but they did manage to win the game 5. It was crazy, really, because aCuRacy was getting spun on like this by Huke in this second round, but aCuRacy had a great series. He had massive numbers here, was the best performing player, I would say, on their team today, despite the fact that he blew himself up with a grenade later in the series. I mean, they're up 4-1 here, he blows himself up with a grenade, all of a sudden it's 4-3, but then they do ice up and win the final couple of rounds. So yeah, Surge go down, and I know that the community, generally speaking, was pretty happy to see it, just because of all the GAs getting broken, and the feeling is that the pros, after this one, the third offense in basically the space of a month, the pros might need to step in and say, you know what, we are going to double down on our threats to, you know, blacklist you guys to make sure that you don't do it. Because if you're not going to punish these type of behaviors, then it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen on LAN, and that's not really what anybody actually wants to see. Fair play to Awakening as well, because, and aCuRacy as well, but Awakening Search and Destroy was getting, and for good reason, heavily criticized. He had like a 0.5 so far this season. Awakening, when it matters, game 5 against Surge, turns up with a 10-in-4 performance. Illy's 2-in-9 on the other side, RC's is 3-in-7. So, you know, I'm not impressed with Surge. I've said that for a while, but they do seem to be regressing somewhat. And Rocker are definitely the other way around. aCuRacy was talking about it in the post-game interview that they said after Christmas, New Year period, that they were going to kind of refocus, change their mindset around. And they've come in and sure, they've beaten Ravens, Gorillas, maybe not massively impressive, but beating Surge in game 5 is nonetheless an impressive result, especially because they all went negative apart from aCuRacy, who had 19,000 damage at a 1.01. Definitely Lins and Vivid also had their moments, but again, it's not like Awakening storming crazy numbers here. So I'm kind of impressed by Rocker. Like, the fact that they have this scoreline and they still win the series with good moments from the SMGs, but nothing crazy. Like, Lins didn't really take over. aCuRacy had a great series. Awakening didn't still, you know, he's not still the Awakening we might expect to see. And if he never becomes that Awakening again, that version of Big Wake, there will still be questions asked. But the fact that Rocker come back from 0-4 to start in winners is massively impressive. So we'll discuss FaZe versus Carolina tomorrow. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.